When I left her in primary school, this girl was one of the dullest students in my class. Dullest, dirtiest students in my class. But when I met her again 7 years later or 6 years later about that in the university, she was studying medicine. And I was wondering what is happening. Because I never could have imagined that someone who was so dull academically, someone who was so unserious and dirty could be transformed in such a short time. Even as a young boy in my teens, that got to me. Hi guys, so I just want to share with you something that I've been sharing with my students for some years now. Whenever I teach the topic angle of elevation and depression, I use that opportunity to teach my students a life lesson that can help them as they go along in life. Some of these students understand the lesson, apply it to their lives, while some others might not really understand it. But while I'm making this video, I'm hopeful that majority of the persons that will view this video will understand the lesson that I'm trying to share with you guys. I want to use this to represent all the students that I teach at a particular level. So when I'm teaching them, I tell them that this person represents all of you guys because you guys are the same class, learning the same thing. So basically you guys are the same level. So this eyesight, what this person is seeing, represents the level that all the students in this class are at that particular time. However, in 10 years time, 10 years, where these students will be individually is determined by the decisions they make. So I normally tell them that nobody has a predetermined destiny. Decisions determine destiny. The choices you make at each point in life will determine where you end up 5, 10, 20 years from now. So when I'm teaching angle of elevation and depression, I normally liken your angle of elevation in life to the choices you make. So let's say at the end of the year, all the students that went through my class are at the same level or assumed to be at the same level. Then among these students, a boy decided to make a choice, and that choice is an angle of elevation. So the boy made a choice at this angle, just a slight change. Probably he read a book, or he went to a seminar, or he had a friend that just changed him a little. Now, every choice you make has a compounding effect on your life. So the choice you make today opens you up to make another choice that opens you up to make another choice. So just by changing a little over time, it's at a different level. You know, there are some persons that you leave them and then after 10 years you come back and meet them and it seems as if they are the same level. These are people that remain at this level after 10 years. But this blue line represents someone who just made a little change in their life positively. But what if another student who was in that same class made a little bit of a higher decision? Just at the beginning, this is just the difference. It doesn't seem much. But let's see who this person can end up becoming in the next 10 years. So in the next 10 years, the difference between this person who did not change and this person becomes so wide. The gap is so wide. And then from that same class, there's somebody else who made a wrong decision. Somebody else who joined a bad gang. Somebody else who went in a wrong relationship and just made a little decline. In the first few weeks or few months or few years, you might not notice the difference that is going to occur in the life of that person. But as the weeks go by and the months go by and the years go by, you discover that from the same class, there's somebody at this level, there's somebody at this level, there's somebody at this level, there's somebody at this level. If you are told by the time you meet all these friends 10 years later, and you are told that these 4 persons were in the same class, you might not believe it. Why? Because their current state does not show that they were once at the same level. So what do you do as an individual? Always ask yourself, are my decisions angles of elevation or angles of depression? It is better to make the slightest angle of elevation than the slightest angle of depression. It is better to make the slightest positive change than making no move at all. So if you have gone through this video, can you categorize yourself? Am I this same person after graduating 10 years later? I'm still at the same point. Or yeah, I have grown a little. Or I think I'm doing very well. But even if you are here, it doesn't mean that you have attained so much, because this point, you can also start coming down if you begin to make the wrong decision. And someone else at this point who takes a major positive change can just start moving this way. Okay? So at every point, your decision is taking you upward or downward. So even if you have been taking positive decisions, it doesn't give you the right to begin to take negative decisions. And even if you are at this point, you don't need to give up hope, because you can still at this point begin to come up. If you begin to make the positive change, you can come up. I learned this lesson when I met a classmate of mine in primary school. When we left primary school, I no longer saw her for about 6-7 years, and then we met again in the university. When I left her in primary school, this girl was one of the dullest students in my class. Dullest, dirtiest students in my class. But when I met her again 7 years later or 6 years later about that in the university, she was studying medicine. And I was wondering, what is happening? Because I never could have imagined that someone who was so dull academically, someone who was so unserious and dirty, could be transformed in such a short time. Even as a young boy in my teens, that got to me, and I got to understand that at any point in life, someone can decide to change. So your destiny is not stuck in a mold. It is not predetermined that you cannot change. Even if you are doing poorly as a student or as a career person, you can decide to make that little elevation just by making a little choice in the positive side. And over time, it will compound. When you look at yourself 5 years back, who you were, you discover that truly you have come a long way. But if you refuse change and you remain at this level, you become stuck at that same level. If you have learned something from this video, you can leave a comment, or if you have any suggestions, if you have any comments to make, you can just leave it in the comment section. Please also leave a like and share this video with your friends. Thank you so much for watching up to this point. See you in the next one. Bye.